Part 127. Heaven-Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1271. Going to the immortal Dragon Emperor realm to find concubine Luo is a matter that cannot be rushed. Therefore, Wu Yu was waiting for the storm to pass, because he was not sure what kind of disturbance the battle with Ao Yang and Ao Ding would cause. So he hasn't returned to Jinming Long City yet. By the way, brother Yu, let's continue talking about the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. We are not sure whether you can go in and take risks, Yezixi said. If it was really dangerous, she might want to advise Wu Yu. If Luo Bin's safety could be ensured, Wu Yu could be stronger before going in. Wu Yu said, whether it is dangerous or not, I can't tell. But there are indeed many powerful people in the Shenlong clan. For example, in addition to the 9 Dragon Emperors, there is also an organization called the Dragon Sovereign Society, with a total of 99 and 81 human beings are said to be the 81 most powerful dragons outside the 9 Dragon Emperors. In voting on major events, each Dragon Emperor has 9 votes. And every Dragon Lord in the Dragon Society has 1 vote, which also shows that the Dragon Lord has great power, even more than the Dragon King of the 100 Realms. There are so many strong men, so what is the Dragon King of the 100 Realms? Yezixi was indeed curious. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Wu Yu said patiently, as mentioned before, the divine dragons and immortal beasts are divided into 9 major clans, and each clan is led by 100 Dragon Kings of the 100 Realms. These Dragon Kings of the 100 Realms are among each clan. Apart from the Dragon Emperor, I estimate that the 100 strongest Dragon Kings are the top ones in the Taixu Fairyland. Therefore, each clan is divided into 100 realms. The World Dragon King, who rules countless divine dragons. This is very simple. Basically, 1 is divided into 9, and then each 9 is divided into 100. Therefore, there are 900 realms in the entire divine dragon and immortal beast. 900 Dragon Kings of 100 realms. The Golden Ming Dragon King is one of the Dragon Kings of 100 realms of a certain clan, Nanshan Wanjiao asked thoughtfully. Wu Yu shook his head and said, no, he is just an ordinary Dragon King. As far as I know, among the Dragon Kings of each clan, in addition to the Dragon Kings of the 100 realms, there are also a large number of ordinary Dragon Kings, who are probably equivalent to the Qinglian Immortal King. For example, in the Red Sun realm where Ao Yang and Ao Ding are located, in addition to the Dragon King of the Red Sun realm, there are dozens of ordinary Dragon Kings. As for the Dragon Kings of the Realm Lord God realm, there are also Xianxian and Tianxian levels. There are even more divine dragons. Looking at the full moon and the beautiful night in Nanshan are shocking. A race of fairy beasts is so huge. 9 Dragon Emperors, 81 Dragon Kings, 900 Dragon Kings of the 100 Realms. There are also countless Dragon Kings in the Taixu Immortal Realm, not to mention the Dragon Kings in the Realm Lord God Realm, and brother Yu, you can only defeat 1 Hexuan Immortal Dragon. Are you sure you want to go to the Immortal Dragon Emperor Realm? Yezixi was a little scared. This terrifying Immortal Dragon Emperor realm really scared her. Wu Yu smiled, and he transformed into Ao Ding, and asked Yezixi again, look at me going in like this, I am completely Ao Ding, then the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm is my home, why can't I go in? But, don't you think the 9 Dragon Emperors or the Dragon Kings of the 100 realms will see through your change? Nanshan Wanjiao said. Wu Yu said, I'm not sure, but I'm just going in to see Luo Bin. It's unlikely that I'll meet any Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Kings of the 100 realms, especially the Dragon Emperor, will at most meet a Dragon Lord in the Realm Lord God realm. It shouldn't be a big problem. Wu Yu had seen the World Lord God realm outside. Each of them was like a walking world. Their aura was quite terrifying. It felt like one punch could bring out the power of a whole world. Okay, then please pay attention to safety. Zixi and I have to prepare to survive the yin fire. Next is Bai Feng. Soon, we will also become immortals. We can't leave you too far away. Otherwise, we will follow you every day. You can only watch the show. I have to work hard too, Yezixi puffed up her cheeks. Meow, Lalan Mao was also very encouraged, as if he also wanted to become stronger. Wu Yu smiled. Along the way, they accompanied him and Ming Long was there. Now he is looking for Luo Bin. With these brothers, sisters, and lovers, this life is truly wonderful and has no regrets. He missed Luo Bin so much that he still wanted to go in and tell her that he was still alive. This time he was going back to the Golden Ming Dragon City and to the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm, a small cloth bag hanging on the waist of the tower of the 8,000 Heavenly Palace. The entrance to the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm is in Jinminglong City, a place called the Emperor Realm Palace. Ao Ding and Ao Yang work in Longshenshun's guiding Immortal Palace, but every once in a while, they have the opportunity to go back to visit their relatives. Their father is a powerful world lord god named Fire Yang Dragon Lord, who is also a 9-year-old. Claw Lai Yang Dragon, a high-level divine dragon. Wu Yu first entered the Jinming Dragon City with his own body, then hid himself, looked around, and found that the disappearance of Ao Yang and the two men did not seem to cause any changes. So, he came to the Imperial Palace and transformed into the form of Ao Ding. And has his memory. When swallowing Ao Ding, Wu Yu saw his ancient immortal pattern of Tao, which was not easy to digest. If Wu Yu wanted to, he could keep it. However, in the end, he digested it and gained a huge harvest. The ancient immortal pattern of the Tao had no power, but it was true that Ao Ding was of great reference value for condensing the Tao. In the past few days, Wu Yu, with the eyes of Ao Yang and Ao Ding, looked at the 9-phase Tathagata Supreme Buddha body and the Bodhi immortal method. It was very fruitful. It is estimated that he will be able to break through the 5th level of the 2 immortal methods in the near future. Even the 6th level. This is to gain the strengths of others and form one's own Tao, accommodate the world. This is the will to swallow. The Imperial Palace is very busy, with many dragons entering and leaving the Immortal Dragon Imperial Realm. Even Ao Ding had to queue up honestly. Fortunately, not many people here knew him. He was just a one-combination Xianxian, doing some small things in the Jian Immortal Palace to hone himself. There were even many realm lords queuing up next to him, and they were followed by many younger brothers. The dragon clan was full of blood and flesh, and the Imperial Palace was also very prosperous. After queuing for a long time, it was Wu Yu's turn. Of course, he still needed some inspection, but it was not particularly strict. He could tell that he was a dragon at first glance, and then his identity was recognized. After registering, he could enter. The person who reviewed was a dragon king in the realm lord. He glanced at Wu Yu and said, "The Immortal Dragon Imperial Realm is a quiet place. Don't use immortal tools and bring some immortals in, otherwise you will be severely punished." He said this to everyone. Of course, he would not check everyone's immortal tools and had no power. There are indeed some immortals who enter the Immortal Dragon Imperial Realm in this way, just like Wu Yu asked the bitter bamboo immortal to take him to the Heavenly Palace. However, the immortals were too obvious inside and could be seen at once. If there was nothing else, they would basically be driven out. After all, that was the territory of the dragons. Understood. Wu Yu walked into the passage of the Emperor Realm Palace. In front of him was a huge 9-color vortex. Wu Yu walked into it like everyone else. After passing through the vortex, he saw a colorful world in front of him. There were 9 roads under his feet. The end of the road seemed to be a cliff. The dragons jumped off the cliff. Soon, it was Wu Yu's turn. "Fire Life Clan, you should go this way." There was a Dragon King on each of the 9 passage platforms. When the Dragon King saw Wu Yu walking towards a passage in the center, he hurriedly called him and asked him to go to the passage at the edge. Yezixi and Nanshan Wanjiao became nervous. Wu Yu turned around and said calmly, replying to Lord Long, I am going to the Tianyi realm of the Tianxing clan to find a friend, so I went directly to the Tianxing clan. After all, it is too far to go back to the Huoming clan and then to the Tianxing clan. There were still a lot of people queuing behind, and Lord Long was too lazy to waste time, saying, hurry up, don't drag it out. Thank you Lord Long. Wu Yu hurriedly walked into the passage of the Tianxing clan. This passage was extremely vast. Many dragons turned into human forms and walked on it. When he walked to the end, there were endless clouds and mists below. The deepest part seemed to be a snow-white vortex full of fairy spirit. It was very beautiful, like a white lotus blooming in the abyss. Looking at the ends of other passage platforms, some were flame vortices, some were ocean vortices, and some were storm vortices. There was also a vortex on the right that was pitch black, mysterious, and indifferent. Wu Yu knew that it was the passage leading to the Lianshen clan. For example, if the Lianshen demon dragon could go to the heavenly palace, it would probably be sent to the Lianshen clan. And the vortex of the Tianxing clan under Wu Yu's feet. One by one, the dragons jumped down and were sucked into the vortex of the Tianxing clan. Luo Bin Wu Yu thought that Luo Bin must have jumped down here not long ago. I don't know, she is fine inside. With this thought, Wu Yu jumped with both legs. When he rushed out of the passage platform, the fairy vortex below suddenly produced a huge attraction force, swallowing him into it. In fact, at this time, it was really going to the Xianlong Emperor realm. Buzz. When Wu Yu entered the white vortex, he suddenly heard a voice. Child, you are finally here. The voice was ethereal and dreamy, which made Wu Yu startled. He was extremely shocked at first, but the vortex swallowed everything, and he had to wonder if he had heard it wrong. Did you hear any sound? Wu Yu asked Nanshan and the others. No. The vortex dragged him deeper, and it seemed that there was indeed no other sound, only the sound of the clouds and mist spinning. I guess I heard it wrong, after all, I didn't hear it clearly. At this time, he clearly felt that he was in another world, surrounded by clouds and mist, and the suction below made him fall out of the clouds and mist. When he left the clouds and mist, stabilized his body, and looked carefully, he suddenly found that he was above the sky, and under his feet was the Xianlong Emperor realm, the territory of the Tianxing clan, Tianxin Dragon Domain. This Tianxin Dragon Domain is divided into 100 realms, each led by 100 of the strongest dragon kings of the 100 realms. There is a separate management between realms. Luo Bin is in this vast Tianxin Dragon Domain. As far as Wu Yu knows, this Tianxin Dragon Domain is equivalent to the size of 10 dragon god heavens. In other words, every 10 realms are equivalent to the territory of one dragon god heaven. Then one of the realms may be equivalent to the area of the upper heavenly palace in the 8,000 heavenly palaces. And there are 900 such realms here. Therefore, the Xianlong Emperor realm is really big, and it is quite difficult to find Luo Bin in this Tianxing clan. What Wu Yu felt now was that the level of immortal energy here, even in an ordinary place, might be at the level of the 4,000th heavenly palace. No wonder the dragons were unwilling to stay in the dragon god heaven and wanted to stay in the immortal dragon emperor realm. This is their home. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1272. Now, Wu Yu is in the territory of the Tianxing clan. The Tianxing clan also has a total of 100 realms. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The entire Tianxing clan alone has an extremely vast territory, and he is now on the edge of the Tianxing clan. Such a large territory, every realm must be inquired, it is really difficult to find her. Fortunately, she is the ultimate dragon, should be relatively famous. Seeing this vast and boundless Tianxing clan, Wu Yu had a headache. The Tianxing clan has 100 realms, and each realm is separated from the other. He may need to inquire one by one. Maybe this is very troublesome and will take a lot of time. But, as long as he can find her, Wu Yu is of course willing. His heart is now full of desire. He wants to know whether she is living well in this Xianlongdi realm, and whether there is any threat in the future. If this is not a suitable place for her, Wu Yu would even take her away from here. King Liantian is very big, but now he is equivalent to walking through more than 10 King Liantian territories to find a Lupin. The dragons here are everywhere, endless, and generally only know their own realm, and it is difficult to know other realms, especially the ancient fairy dragons that have just arrived. Wu Yu began to search. He walked in this vast mountain, river, and sea. The mountains and rivers of the immortal dragon realm are extremely magnificent. The mountains can reach the sky, and the sea can reach the bottom of the earth. The dragons in the immortal dragon realm are all active in their original bodies, flying across the sky and the earth, so lively. Some small dragons are playing around. There are also huge dragons flying in the clouds, with no head or tail. It's like a dream world. Wu Yu also transformed into a 9-clawed scorching sun dragon, so that no one would doubt his identity. Although this is the territory of the Tianxing clan and he is from the Fire Life clan, the communication between the dragons is quite frequent, and there are also marriages. The appearance of the Fire Life clan in the Tianxing clan is rare, but it is normal. No one will ask him why he came here. Wu Yu is now in a place called Xianming realm in the Tianxing clan. He found several dragons here and talked to them separately. I heard that a Taiko Xianling dragon from the mortal world, the ultimate dragon, came here recently. After the greetings, Wu Yu usually started like this. Where did you hear the news? I haven't heard of it. The other party often responded in this puzzled way. I guess I heard it wrong. It seems that I heard that he came to the Tianxing clan, but I forgot which realm. Wu Yu smiled embarrassedly. He looks kind, and in the Xianlongdi realm, there is no need to argue for no reason, and others are not too wary of him. And when he asks like this, others will not be suspicious. Wu Yu basically asked 10 dragons, but basically the answers were the same. They were all very surprised by Wu Yu's news. The ultimate dragon from the mortal world is really rare. If there is one, there should be a legend. It is probably not in our area, or in other realms, or someone blocked the news. Anyway, there should be no one in my Xianming realm. Wu Yu could almost rule out the Xianming realm. Then, he went to the surrounding Xianying realm and used the same method, but the result was still the same. Wu Yu was not discouraged. There were a total of 100 realms. If he could find out all at once, his luck would be too amazing. It took him more than 10 days to find these 2 realms alone. After all, he could only use Ao Ding's way to travel, which was a bit slow. Most of the time, he was flying from the territory of Xianming realm to the territory of Xianying realm. He had a map of the Tianxing clan bought from a dragon in Xianming realm. The map clearly divided the territories of the major realms. Wu Yu searched one by one according to the distance. You've traveled thousands of miles to find your wife. If Lupin knew about this, she would be so moved. It's so touching, haha. Nanshan Wanjiao couldn't help teasing him. Yezixi was so moved that she said, Sister Lupin is so happy. Well, little girl, why don't we get together? Show your affection every day and make this girl angry. Nanshan Wanjiao laughed. Go to hell. If all the men in the world die, I won't even bother to look at you. Yezixi glared at him. Of course, it was a joke. Now the 3 of them are more like brothers and sisters. Nanshan Wanjiao had no interest in her at all. He likes mead. Wu Yu was a little nervous, always worried about asking bad news. However, he had to continue asking. If he didn't fight for it, he would have no idea where she was and what her current situation was. Now that he didn't ask, his heart was hanging. This was a long time. Hurrying on the road, asking. using various methods to get others to say something and lie as Ao Ding. He has the memory of 2 dragons, and when he speaks, he is indeed seamless, and no one will doubt him. Wu Yu has witnessed that in the core of many dragon worlds, there are many powerful people hidden. He saw with his own eyes that a dragon that is definitely above the realm of the master of the realm flew over his head indifferently. The dragon was not big, but it is said that the Taigzu Fairyland is a terrifying realm beyond ordinary immortals. Wu Yu has no idea what kind of realm it is. He even feels like a mortal encountering a fairy. It seems that the Taigzu Fairyland is another new level. He now knows the name of this realm, but still has no idea what this realm is about. The realm of the Lord of the Realm cultivates its own world. What else is more advanced and more terrifying? This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. He must be careful, because there are too many strong people who can kill him here. He can only deal with some young dragons. There are dragons at the level of Xianxian everywhere, and those at the level of Tianxian are basically those who have just ascended to the 1 UN time, or are young children. In a blink of an eye, 3 months have passed. Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi have been practicing in the Fusion Tower for more than 2 years. Now they are both in the 10th level of the realm of Taoism. They are already preparing for the great calamity of the Immortal Way and the great calamity of the Ghost Way. However, it may take some time to prepare, so Wu Yu still has time. Now, he has traveled through more than 70 realms, and has not yet heard about Luo Bin. This makes him a little depressed, and the news is still hanging high, always worrying that something has happened. Don't worry too much. There are more than 20 territories. This place is really too big. If you are in the remaining realms, the places you have inquired about before are simply hard to know. And Luo Bin has been here for a short time. For the long life of the dragons, 1 or 2 years is just a blink of an eye. With Minglong's comfort, Wu Yu calmed down a little. He knew that even if he asked all the questions, he still had hope. Because it is possible that the dozen people he asked in each realm just didn't know. At this time, he came to a place called Xianling Realm. Nanshan Wanjiao said, I should have come here a long time ago. You see, this place is called Xianling Realm. She is an ancient fairy dragon. Isn't this a match? So, she is very likely here. Wu Yu smiled, but he felt that this name obviously had nothing to do with Luo Bin. However, this is indeed a place he imagined and was very sure of. He sneaked in here. This fairy world has a vast territory, most of which are high mountains and forests, and there are many deep lakes. There are rivers flowing throughout it, and the fairy mist is lingering, just like the fairy land in the legend. In this fairy mist, many dragons are practicing, and little dragons are playing, which is very lively. He stared for a long time and found a snow-white little dragon lying lazily on the blue stone by the river. The little dragon was lying lazily, holding a small tree in its mouth, and it was happy. I don't know what it was thinking. Wu Yu noticed that he had a horn on his forehead, which turned out to be a sword. There was also a pair of white wings behind him, and the snow-white dragon scales were also quite good. He vaguely remembered that this kind of dragon was a little higher than the 9-claws fiery sun dragon, and it was a super dragon. The bloodline is very strong, and the name is Sword Horn Flying Fairy Dragon. The bloodline of the dragon has levels, and the lowest level is the ordinary dragon. For example, there are many blue dragons, black dragons, and red dragons in the mortal world. Above are the medium dragons, such as the 5-clawed golden dragon and the iron-winged fire dragon. Further up, there are high-level dragons, such as the 9-clawed scorching sun dragon and the red blood-horned demon dragon, all of which are high-level dragons. Further up, there is the super dragon bloodline, which is the genius bloodline of the dragon clan, such as the refining demon dragon, the sword-horned flying fairy dragon, and the 3000 star domain dragons. But above the super dragons, there are ultimate dragons, for example, The ancient fairy dragon is the most basic of the ultimate dragons. This is the absolute genius of the dragon clan. And the 9 dragon emperors in the rumors are basically the top ultimate dragons, and their bloodline is definitely higher than Luo Bin. With the bloodline of the ultimate dragon, they can at least become dragon kings in the future. In each world, the number of ultimate dragons will not exceed 20, and it is estimated that there are generally less than 10. The sword-horned flying fairy dragon in front of Wu Yu is already a very good super dragon. However, he was not very old, so Wu Yu was going to ask him. "Hello." Wu Yu poked his head out of the woods and looked at the little dragon. "Fire Clan." The little dragon tilted his head to look at Wu Yu and said, "What are you doing? Is there something wrong?" Wu Yu laughed and stepped forward and said, "What's your name?" "This is my first time in the fairy world, and I want to get to know this place. My name is Zhou Xiao. You can just call me Xiao." "Haha, I chose this name myself. I thought the name my parents gave me was boring, so I chose one myself." "Look how interesting it is." With both left and right the little dragon laughed. He was obviously a talkative little guy. "By the way, what are you doing in the fairy world?" Wu Yu said, "I'm fulfilling a small dream of mine. It has always been said that the fairy dragon emperor world is very big, so I want to see how big it is, so I plan to spend more than 10 years to travel all over the place and make more friends." "Damn. It's really interesting, I want to do this too." Swordhorn flying fairy dragon Zhou Xiao jumped up and said excitedly. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1273. Wu Yu just used the sentence to fool others. Most dragons thought that there was something wrong with his brain, but when the sword-horned flying fairy dragon heard this, he was so shocked that he even wished he could start wandering around like Wu Yu right away. Actually, it doesn't take much time. The Immortal Dragon Emperor realm is really big. The other party was very excited and kept asking Wu Yu about the details along the way, but Wu Yu probably just made it up. In the middle of the heated conversation, Wu Yu suddenly asked, "By the way, I was on the way and heard that an ultimate dragon in the mortal world recently came to your fairy world, called the Ancient Fairy Dragon. I'm so envious. I didn't expect that there is an ultimate divine dragon in the mortal world, but I was born in the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm, and it turned out to be only a high-level divine dragon." He pretended not to do it, but he was watching the other party's reaction. In fact, this process had happened countless times, and Wu Yu had no hope. "What? The ultimate dragon?" Zhou Xiao shook his head and said, "Why haven't I heard of it? Sure enough, it's not here." Wu Yu thought there was hope, but it turned out that everything was in vain. He was a little depressed and said, "Maybe I heard it wrong." "Haha." I could only force a smile. "There's not even a place called Fairy World, so where did she go?" Zhou Xiao thought for a while and suddenly said, "I have never heard of the ultimate dragon, but you said ancient immortal dragon. We have 3 ancient immortal dragons in the immortal world. The first one is the Dragon King of the immortal world Wu Jun, the second one is his younger brother, Bai Yin Dragon King, and the immortal couple of Bai Yin Dragon King, Bai Qin Dragon King. I heard a few days ago that Bai Yin Dragon King and his wife have taken over. There is a divine dragon from the mortal world as the adopted daughter. I heard that she has good qualifications and her name is Luo Bin. I heard that she is very beautiful. I haven't found out what kind of divine dragon it is. Buzz. It was simply a chance of survival after disaster. Or risk your life and survive. It turns out that the news that Luo Bin is an ancient immortal spirit dragon has not yet been revealed. However, he called out Luo Bin's name, and she was a mortal dragon. She was also adopted as an adopted daughter by an ancient immortal spirit dragon couple. Basically, there was no need to ask any more questions. Wu Yu could be sure that Luo Bin the concubine is in this fairy world. Finally found her. Wu Yu was of course extremely excited inside. Of course, he also had to get rid of Zhou Xiao without letting him discover his problems. Oh, that's it? I guess that adopted daughter is the ancient immortal spirit dragon. I'm really envious, Wu Yu said. Leave her alone, brother Ao Ding, you told me, what should I prepare for such a tour? I was going to send a messenger talisman directly to my parents, so I ran away first. They would definitely refuse to do it anyway. He is interested in this. Wu Yu had enough patience, and after the conversation was about the same, Zhou Xiao really ran away immediately. Wu Yu also asked for some information related to the fairy world. The Dragon King of the 100 worlds in the fairy world is the ancient fairy dragon. No wonder it is called the fairy world. Then, his brother and sister-in-law, Dragon King Bai Yin and Dragon King Bai Qin, adopted Luo Bai as their adopted daughter. Now, because Luo Bai is an ancient fairy spirit dragon, they should love her very much. So her current situation, it should be good. My parents are Dragon Kings, and my uncle is even the Dragon King of 100 realms, the master of this fairy world. Besides them, there are dozens of other Dragon Kings in the fairy world, but they all obey the orders of Wu Jun, the Dragon King of the fairy world. This Wu Jun happens to have the same surname as me. Further down, there are many Dragon Kings in the realm Lord God realm, as well as mysterious immortals and heavenly immortals. Luo Bin now has a family. Wu Yu is relieved. At least she has someone to protect her, because the Bai Yin Dragon King and his wife do not accept her as an apprentice, but directly treat her as their daughter. This is a signal. It's different. At least it was certain that she was safe, had an identity, and had potential. She is even equivalent to the princess of this fairy world. After all, Wu Jun, the Dragon King of the fairy world, has no heirs, so logically, he would take good care of Luo Bin. Because she is the only young immortal spirit dragon, it can even be said that she is the future of the dragon race, the immortal spirit dragon. Wu Yu was in a happy mood. I have been worried about it for several months, and now I can finally let it go. Now, his goal is to find Luo Bin and tell her that he is still alive. The goal of meeting in heaven is about to be achieved. Of course, the fairy world is very big, so Wu Yu still needs to find out carefully where Dragon King Bai Yin and the others live, and where Luo Bin might be. After some inquiries, he knew that all divine dragons that ascended from the mortal world, or divine dragons that were born less than 1 yuan ago, would be concentrated in the latent souls of the major fairy worlds in the first 1 yuan. Dragon Peak, the cultivation is uniformly guided by the elders of Shenlong. Either if it exceeds 1 yuan, or if it reaches the 5 yuan celestial immortal, you can successfully graduate from Qianlong Peak. Luo Bin has just been promoted, but Shenlong pays attention to fair competition. Although her adoptive father and stepmother will definitely help a lot in cultivation, on a daily basis, she should go to Qianlong Peak and listen to the person who is responsible for guiding the juniors. The elders of Shenlong gave orders, and they would also arrange trials, battles, etc. It took the sword-horn flying fairy dragon just a few thousand years to come out of Qianlong Peak and successfully graduate. Wu Yu estimated that Luo Bin was probably at Qianlong Peak now. His map marked the approximate location of Qianlong Peak, and he headed there. However, it was strange that he went deep into Qianlong Peak of the immortal realm as a fire-life divine dragon. Because Qianlong Peak is the core of a world, and Wu Yu used to be on the periphery. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. So Wu Yu simply acted in his original body. He used the law of heaven and earth to change himself to the smallest, only a little bit, and moved in this huge world. In fact, There are also immortal cultivators in the immortal Dragon Emperor realm, but there are very few of them. Wu Yu saw two in a few months. One seemed to be willing to be a servant of the dragon, and the other seemed to be quite powerful, and seemed to be the Taoist partner of the dragon. From the memories of Ao Ding and Ao Yang, in fact, some dragons have immortal partners. But it is said that if you want to become the immortal partner of a dragon, it is still quite strict. At least you have to be strong in strength and talent, and you may need to be willing to be loyal to the dragon clan. It is equivalent to marrying into the family. Now he wants to see her, and has no time to think so far. While hiding, many dragons passed by, and Qianlong Peak finally arrived. This is a lush green mountain. The trees on it are all immortals, and basically all have spiritual patterns. The top is shrouded in fairy mist. It is not clear how high it is, but it can be vaguely seen that there are huge palaces and pavilions on the top of the mountain. Those are designed for the size of the dragon, so they are quite huge. Indistinctly, there are also the sounds of the little dragons fighting, the humming and hawing, and the scolding of the elders. In short, this should be considered a place of inheritance. She should be up there. Wu Yu hid in the dark, flying up, and shuttling through the jungle. The closer he got, the more excited he was. He might have thought that meeting in the heavenly palace was far away, but Wu Yu did it soon. The feeling of fulfilling his promise. Obviously, Luo Bin must not have thought that Wu Yu could come to her so soon. The Qianlong Peak in the fairy mist is really high. Wu Yu's tiny body tried not to make any noise. There are many powerful people on it, and he is actually worried now. Finally, he climbed up the Qianlong Peak and came to the top of the peak. There are vast palaces here. Hidden in the fairy mist, various dragon statues are domineering and lifelike, and the whole world is full of dragons and phoenixes. This place is so big, how can I find it? After coming up, Wu Yu was still dumbfounded. After all, the place is too big. Moreover, if you want to go deep into these dragon palaces, there are fairy formations everywhere. If you get caught, you will probably lose your life. He frowned, feeling anxious, and had to think of a good way. It seems to be divided into 4 parts in total. Can it be understood that there is one place for the first UN Celestial Immortals, one place for the second UN Celestial Immortals, and you can leave here when you reach the 5th UN Celestial Immortals? Yezixi asked with his head tilted. You are still smart. After listening to her, Wu Yu also understood that all the dragon palaces were indeed divided into 4 large areas. In this way, Luo Bin should be in one of them. According to the arrangement rules, the dragon palace closest to Wu Yu should be where the 1 UN Celestial Immortals are. Luo Bin had just come up not long ago, and was obviously in the realm of 1 UN Celestial Immortals. Wu Yu approached that place quietly, slowly, and cautiously, like a fallen leaf. Fortunately, there were still many trees around the dragon palace, which could slightly block it. Even if they met Luo Bin, they could not act rashly, because the one guiding them must be a powerful dragon. Getting closer and closer, getting more and more nervous. As if he had already smelled her scent. Missing her so much. He landed on a huge tree closest to the Qianlong Palace. The view here was very good, and he could see many squares in the Dragon Palace. If he was indoors, he would find it difficult to find it. If there were people outside, he could see it clearly. The largest square has a dragon. Wu Yu locked it immediately. There were more than 100 little dragons, forming a circle. They were chirping and shouting. The leader was a huge dragon bathed in golden flames. The size of all the little dragons combined was not as big as him. Judging from their aura, they were all dragon kings, at least in the realm of the Lord of the Realm. Obviously, they were the guiding masters of these little dragons. And inside the encirclement, 2 little dragons were fighting. One of them was as white as jade, with an aura of fairy, like a work of art. Wu Yu was sure that it was the Luo Bin he had been thinking about day and night. They met in the heavenly palace. Finally, they met. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1274. Finally saw her. Perhaps it was because the ancient emperor had brought too many twists and turns. Wu Yu felt that it had been a long, long time since he last saw her. The time spent together in the Four Seas Dragon Palace seemed like a long time ago. Now, watching her perform the divine dragon magic and fight with another divine dragon, her posture was so beautiful that Wu Yu was mesmerized. I think about it day and night, and now I feel like my dream has come true. Even if she is in the form of a divine dragon, even if she is a piece of snow-white dragon scales, Wu Yu feels so perfect. This kid has really never seen the world, so he is dumbfounded. Nanshan Wanjiao chuckled. You don't understand his true feelings, Yezixi said. It takes so much effort to have real feelings. Anyway, I don't do it, haha. This guy smiled mischievously again. He also kept shaking his beauty folding fan. Luo Bin has extraordinary talents, and her fighting skills aroused the admiration of the surrounding dragons. Although she had just arrived, she performed very well. Wu Yu was still in a trance, so she defeated her opponent and then politely apologized to him. It doesn't matter, the other party is a male dragon, and perhaps Luo Bin is also a great beauty to him, so he is very polite. Long Jun said, Luo Bin is very good. You must continue to work hard. Your parents have very high expectations for you. Yes, respected master. Her voice was still the same as before. However, it may be because of Wu Yu. Wu Yu saw that she was relatively indifferent and did not take the initiative to speak. After the incident, she stayed in one place by herself, and others were too embarrassed to approach her. Not particularly happy. This made Wu Yu slightly uncomfortable. He knew that this was because for her, her life or death was uncertain. Next, the other dragons were fighting and training. The honored master gave on-site guidance and pointed out their shortcomings, while Luo Bin watched the battle and listened carefully, very seriously. However, this teacher's character seems not to be very good. For some male dragons, if they don't do well, he often beats and scolds them. The treatment of the female dragons is obviously much better. Sometimes he provides on-site guidance and even touches a few times intentionally or unintentionally. Those little female dragons were particularly panicked. This old gangster would probably be like this if he wasn't jealous of Luo Bin's identity, Nanshan Wanjiao said with disdain. He seemed to be more polite to Luo concubine. After all, she is the adopted daughter of Dragon King Bian and Dragon King Bacon, and the niece of the Dragon King of the fairy world. During their trial, Wu Yu had no chance to meet Luo Bin. He could only wait silently on top of the giant tree and look at her stupidly. Time passes. But as long as Wu Yu can look at her, he can't help but laugh. Maybe this is the feeling of falling in love. It seems that every move she makes is so charming, which appeals to Wu Yu. During the process, Wu Yu heard that this Dragon King was a kind of golden immortal glory dragon, with the title, Immortal Glory Dragon Lord. He is one of the venerable masters of the Qianlong Palace. There are dozens of venerable masters in the Qianlong Palace responsible for the guidance of magical powers, immortal magic, practical combat, etc. Finally, after all the battles were completed and the Xuanhuan Dragon Lord gave guidance, he announced, "After my guidance, I believe that everyone is well prepared for actual combat. Next, I will lead you enter the monster hunting battlefield to engage in real actual combat. I have made it clear to you a long time ago that the demon god puppet in the demon hunting battlefield is completely imitated by the demon god. At least in appearance, it looks exactly like the demon god. There is almost no difference. Among them, the immortal formation also simulates the natal magical power of the demon god. This is a difficult actual battle. Those who perform well can be praised and rewarded. Are you ready? Ready. Wu Yu was originally looking at Luo Bin in trance. Monster hunting field, he prepared to follow, maybe there would be a chance to meet Luo Bin alone. What you have to do is to kill the demon god puppet and get the core of the magic circle. After 10 days, whoever has more magic circle cores will be the winner. It is forbidden to snatch the core of the magic circle that others have already obtained. I will supervise the whole process. Don't trouble me. Follow me. The huge golden immortal dragon took off and flew towards the west. The little dragons also flew one after another and followed behind. Luo Bin ruled the Four Seas Dragon Palace in the mortal world, but when she came here, she was equivalent to a newborn dragon. So she had to participate in these, and these relatively systematic guidance were actually quite helpful to her. She followed behind silently. Occasionally, Shenlong would talk to her, and she would respond, but she would not say too much to the other person. She did seem to be worried. However, when she was flying, the golden immortal dragon was always beside her, saying, "You haven't been to the demon hunting battlefield yet. If you are not mentally prepared, you don't have to go. Respected master, I have gone through a lot of experiences in the mortal world. As long as my strength can handle it, there will be no problem," Luo Bin said. The golden immortal glory dragon chuckled and said, "What are those in the mortal world? For you, the demon and god puppets are still very scary. But since you choose to go, I will definitely give you more guidance." "Thank you, Master," Luo Bin said. Golden Immortal Huanglong wanted to say one more thing, but Luo Bin's response was still relatively cold. However, he persevered and kept talking beside him. Wu Yu followed from a distance, like the Golden Immortal Huanglong. Although he was in the realm Lord God realm, he obviously didn't expect that there would be an immortal following them here, so he didn't notice it. Wu Yu discovered that the monster hunting battlefield was an ancient forest surrounded by an immortal formation. The immortal formation was hemispherical and filled with huge trees. The immortal formation was very large and could accommodate many people. People are practicing inside. After the immortal Huang Dragon King arrived here, he opened the gate of the immortal formation, and the dragons flew into it. Because the dragons were huge, the gate of the immortal formation was also quite large. Wu Yu hid in the corner. The moment the dragons entered, he quickly entered the immortal formation from the corner. Then the immortal formation closed quickly, but Wu Yu estimated that his somersault cloud could jump out from here. When he came to the immortal formation, the immortal mist was extremely dense. Looking far away, there were trees everywhere, mixed in the immortal mist, and there was a bit of ghostly smell. The entire hunting demon battlefield was rarely filled with very strong demonic energy. It seems that the Shenlong clan regards the demon god as an imaginary enemy, but the demon god world has no intersection with this place. They created a puppet of the demon god here, which is said to be very similar to the demon god and basically indistinguishable. Wu Yu believes this. After all, it was created by a top immortal. Just after entering, there is a metal platform. Xuanhuan Dragon King distributed a fairy talisman to each person. As long as they are in danger, the fairy talisman will instantly bring people to this metal platform. This is a safe place. Of course, those who are as timid as mice can also hide on this monster hunting platform for 10 days. If you are not afraid of being laughed at by others, Xuanhuan Dragon King put pressure on the little dragons. Remember, defeat the demon god puppet, get the fairy array core, and come back here after 10 days. The top 3 will be rewarded. Yes. Every time the monster hunting battlefield, the young little dragons finally have the opportunity to fight happily. In fact, they are in a very happy mood. The battle just now was equivalent to warming them up. I declare, start. Let's go. When Xuanhuang Dragon King shouted, more than 100 little dragons rushed into the monster hunting battlefield. The rules prohibited acting in groups, and everyone refused to give in to each other, so they separated directly. This monster hunting battlefield is extremely huge, and these more than 100 little dragons went in, like a stone sinking into the sea. Luo Bin also entered. For Wu Yu, this was the best opportunity to meet her. Of course he followed Luo Bin. However, what made him depressed was that when he and Luo Bin just entered the demon hunting battlefield, the immortal Huang Dragon King actually followed Luo Bin, and Wu Yu had to hide far away. Why did the master follow me? Luo Bin stopped and asked in confusion. The immortal Huang Dragon King laughed and said, "This is your first time here, I'd better follow you. Don't worry, I won't intervene to help you, at most I will give you some guidance." "Master, actually there is no need." Before he finished speaking, the immortal Huang Dragon King frowned and said, "Just fight, don't worry about me. I often help the newly arrived new dragon like this." Luo Bin said no more. Wu Yu was extremely depressed. It was not easy for her to be alone, but this guy was like a fly, always following Luo Bin, and Wu Yu couldn't get close to him. Wu Yu looked at Xuanhuan Longjun with the wrong look in his eyes, but he obviously just tried to stay with Luo Bin for a while longer and didn't dare to do anything out of line. After all, he still had to live. He said he was taking care of her, but in fact he was talking to Luo Bin all the way. He probably wanted to show his charm and make Luo Bin feel good about him, but Luo Bin obviously didn't care about him. The demon god puppet appeared. Wu Yu took a closer look and found that it was exactly the same as the demon god. It was a silver wolf with 3 eyes. Its innate magical power was very powerful and it had the same combat power as Luo Bin. Luo Bin entered the combat state and spent a lot of effort to defeat her opponent. She was also slightly injured. Xuanhuan Longjun quickly took out the elixir to help her recover. "It's normal to feel a little hurt for the first time, but it will be fine in the future. You work so hard and have great talent, so you will definitely achieve more than others in the future." He kept talking all the way, for 1 day, 2 days, and finally on the 3rd day, Lupin couldn't help it, and she said, "Master, can you let me act on my own? If you do this, I will be easily distracted." He didn't expect Lupin to drive him away, which made him a little angry. After all, it was different from what he imagined. "Why are you so ignorant? I'm doing this for your own good. Then I'll go back and ask my adoptive father and mother if you're doing this for me." Lupin looked at him coldly. "Okay, although being Dragon King can understand my good intentions, in order to let you have real combat, I still won't protect you. It's up to you next." Xuanhuan Dragon King forced a smile. But it was obvious that he was actually frightened by Lupin. Wu Yu smiled. Lupin was still Lupin, still so domineering. As soon as Xuanhuan Dragon King left, he finally had the opportunity to get close to Lupin. "There were only 59 yesterday, so I won't update today. This download has already been downloaded, so there's no point in repeating it." Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1275. Luo Bin finally acted alone. The snow-white divine dragon advanced quietly in this dense and vast jungle, being careful and vigilant, looking for the demon god puppet. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. She just came here not long ago. Although her talent is better than other dragons, her training time is too short after all. Among this group, she is almost in the middle. It is not easy to get into the top 3. Therefore, the first time she came here was also for a trial, to fight opponents of the same level as real immortals. Wu Yu held back his impulse and anxiety. Because, as soon as the golden immortal glory dragon left, Wu Yu had to wait for him to go far away, and also for Luo Bin to go deep into the monster hunting battlefield. At that time, there was basically no one around her. He had resisted missing her for such a long time, and it was already wonderful to be able to look at her now, not least for a moment. Half an hour later, she successfully defeated another demon god puppet. Obtain the core of the immortal formation. The demon god puppet was a black eagle, its body as sharp as steel, a bit like a black phoenix. However, the black phoenix is not so lifelike. The demon god puppets here look like they have flesh and blood and demonic aura, and they are almost real. After defeating her opponent, she felt a little tired and stayed in a tree hole to recover. She spoke very few words. She never spoke after acting alone. Occasionally, when she met other dragons, they would pass by in a hurry. It seems that he is not in a good mood. Thinking of her, bravely facing the catastrophe of immortality, and then succeeding. Maybe she wanted to become stronger as soon as possible to help Wu Yu. It's time to meet her. Wu Yu felt extremely happy. He thought about it and wanted to tease her a little and give her a big surprise. Therefore, he simulated changes under the giant tree, and suddenly transformed into the Blood Sea Rock Demon. The Blood Sea Pen Demon is a giant bird, covered in blood and with blood-red feathers. The moment it appeared, there was a strong demonic aura that swept down. Of course, the concubine logo in the tree hole felt it. Are there demon god puppets again? Are there so many around here? According to the settings of the demon hunting battlefield, the demon god puppets in each area will not be too large. Theoretically speaking, if she just defeated a demon god puppet here, it is unlikely that another one will appear. But it just showed up. Luo Bin has been resting for a while. Of course she faced the difficulty and came out of the tree hole in an instant. The snow-white dragon was now facing off against Wu Yu, the blood-red bird. Wu Yu deliberately let out a sharp scream, looking ferocious. In fact, she finally saw herself, not to mention how happy she felt at this time. Often in front of her, Wu Yu becomes like a child. However, after Luo Bin saw him, she took action without hesitation. She used a newly learned dragon immortal technique to attack Wu Yu with her immortal energy. It was a sharp beam of light, split into three, and penetrated towards Wu Yu's flesh and blood body. Ding ding ding. 3 harsh sounds were heard. Luo Bin was shocked to find that Wu Yu was unscathed when her magic spell hit him. This is actually a bit beyond her imagination, because they are the junior class of Qian Longpeak. How can the 1 UN Immortals in the general junior class have such a powerful demon god puppet? Did I put the wrong demon god puppet? She frowned deeply, but she didn't want to quit at this time. Keep attacking. Next, is his natal magical power. Heart of Hidden Sea. The entire space suddenly turned into a sea, and Wu Yu was trapped in it. The sea quickly shrank, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a heart-shaped water ball, trapping Wu Yu in it, and then continued to compress. The thick, solid sea water, which is heavier than a steel fairy treasure, will flatten Wu Yu's body. Wu Yu smiled. He gently used his arms and came out from inside, tearing Luo Bin's Shanghai heart apart. Young ladies, you are quite handsome. Are you going to make out with Mr. Peng? Wu Yu rushed out and instantly used his magical power to trap Luo Bin with the 9 levels of purgatory. Of course, in fact, he was only trapped and did not use any attack power. The slender divine dragon's body was wrapped in 9 rings, and Wu Yu directly told her that she couldn't even crush the immortal talisman. Luo Bin was even more incredible. She clearly felt that Wu Yu was much better than her. She had never seen Wu Yu transform into the Blood Sea Pen Demon, so she didn't know. At this time, Wu Yu flew in front of her, spread out his huge wings, enveloped her, and then quickly fell down, pressing her to the ground. The blood-red wings trapped her, and Wu Yu's bird head was now facing her dragon head. Little girls, give me a kiss, Wu Yu chuckled. He wanted to scratch her, but unexpectedly, she suddenly looked at him with tears in her eyes. She looked down at the 9 levels of purgatory on her body. From the look in her eyes, Wu Yu remembered that she had seen Wu Yu perform the 9 levels of purgatory. Moreover, the 9 purgatory did not attack, it just restrained her. Thinking again, She had just defeated a demon god puppet here. Normally, there would be no other demon god puppets here. Her tears were streaming down her face, and she was a little bit crazy. She asked, "Wu Yu, is that you?" That trembling, nervous and soft voice made Wu Yu tremble all over. She also misses herself so much and waits for herself. The teasing and joking were over. Wu Yu instantly withdrew from the 9 levels of purgatory and then transformed into a human form. In his arms, Luo Bin also transformed from a divine dragon into a human form. In this vast world, Wu Yu pressed the woman in his arms under him, and their faces were less than an inch apart. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Perhaps, this was the best and most surprising gift in the world for her. There was no warning at all, so she lost her voice at this moment and didn't know what to say. He only had his arms, holding Wu Yu's back very hard. "Don't talk." Wu Yu's eyes were also red. He looked at the red lips and couldn't control himself, so he kissed them directly. It has been a long time since swallowing Ao Ding until today. The Ruyi Golden Cudgel has long since restored Wu Yu's immortal god to his human form. He can now control himself very well. A long, sweet, loveless kiss, so sweet that Wu Yu didn't even want to look up. All the thoughts and feelings were put into this kiss and hug. At this time, there are only 2 people in the world, no matter the world is falling apart or the world is upside down. She cried, hugged Wu Yu, and choked with sobs, "I thought I would never see you again in this life." She was struggling to say this, and she was shaking as she said it, which showed how scared she was about it. "You can rest assured in the future. I survived. I defeated the ancient emperor and took back my body. I took back everything I had and I killed him too." Wu Yu picked her up, and the 2 stood opposite each other, under the many giant trees. Wu Yu still hugged her, unwilling to let go. "It's so touching in the Fusion Tower," Yezixi was so moved. Luo Bin raised her head slightly, hooked her hands around Wu Yu's neck, and looked at Wu Yu with tearful eyes, as if she wanted to see clearly, as if she wanted to tell herself that this was not a dream or an illusion. Wu Yu calmed down slightly. Of course he knew that all this was true. He said, "The last time we said goodbye, the ancient emperor took away my real body, leaving only my clone. Later, the ancient emperor used my body to stay directly in the heavenly palace, and I used my clone to wander around in the big world, and then killed him again. I caught up with him in the heavenly palace. I devoured his immortal god and took back his body. Then I came to Longshenchen to inquire about your news, and I met Ao Yang in the Jian palace." He spoke briefly. But Luo Bin knew that what he said was very simple. There would definitely be many dangers along the way. "Isn't it easy?" She stretched out her delicate hand and touched Wu Yu's resolute face. "Well, sometimes, I almost thought that I would never see you again. Especially those days when I endured the torment caused by the ancient emperor. But, I still won in the end. You are always tougher than I imagined. I really never expected that you could enter the immortal dragon emperor realm and find you here." Luo Bin was still in a daze, with tears in her eyes. "Fortunately, it didn't take that long. Otherwise, there are so many young talents here, and you would have forgotten me," Wu Yu said with a smile. "What nonsense are you talking about? Without you, I will never need a Taoist companion for the rest of my life." Luo Bin was amused by him. Her smile was still so beautiful that Wu Yu was completely immersed in it, just paying attention. Her red lips, and then recalling the taste just now, it was really the supreme enjoyment in life. Wu Yu calmed down a little. He looked around, and then said, "This immortal dragon emperor realm is really filled with countless dragons and powerful men. We in the mortal world would never dare to imagine such a terrifying place. When I first arrived, when I heard about the 9 dragon emperors, the Dragon Master Society, the Dragon King of the 100 Realms, etc., I was shocked and speechless. This is indeed the dream place of our Shenlong clan. Wu Yu nodded and said, originally, I heard that you came to a place like this, alone, but I was still worried about you. I also just found out that there is a pair of ancient immortal spirit dragon parents who accepted you as their adopted daughter. How do they treat you? How? This is what Wu Yu is more worried about. Luo Ben smiled slightly, patted Wu Yu's chest and said, I'm very lucky. I met this couple when I first came here. In fact, they have wanted a child for a long time, but they didn't have one success. Don't worry, my adoptive father and mother are very good to me. They are so good that I am flattered. Therefore, in this immortal Dragon Emperor realm, I am actually very safe. Even the Dragon King of the immortal spirit realm treats me very well. It's all good, because the three of them are ancient immortal spirit dragons. At least there will be no problem in their future growth. Hearing what she said, Wu Yu felt relieved. Indeed, there were 3 Dragon Kings who loved her so much, and there were even Dragon Kings from the 100 realms in the fairy world. They immediately accepted her as their adopted daughter, which showed how much they liked Luo Ben. Wu Yu could also imagine that if he were the Dragon King Bai Yin, he would be extremely fond of a tough and well-behaved child like Luo Ben. Then Wu Yu can rest assured. She has talent, bloodline, and the protection of the top powerhouse Dragon King in the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. She does have a bright future. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1276. Bai Yin Dragon King arranged a more reasonable immortal cultivation plan for her. In the past few years, she first followed the unified inheritance of all the dragons and received unified guidance at Qianlong Peak. At this time, Bai Yin Dragon King had already given her the best immortal method, at least better than other friends she was studying at the same time. Occasionally, Bai Yin Dragon King and his wife would also guide her. After she became a 5UN Celestial Immortal, they would personally guide her. Before I became a 5UN Celestial Immortal, they didn't let me leave the immortal Dragon Emperor realm, or even the immortal Spirit realm, because with my current strength, it would be too dangerous to go out of any heaven, so I couldn't go out to find you. I actually tried to ask my adoptive father and mother, with their means, it would be difficult to find an ancient emperor of Yanhuang in the 8,000 heavenly palaces, and I was afraid of exposing your secret, so, at first I didn't know that their parents were so good to me. Recently, I was hesitating whether to let them help me catch the ancient emperor first. I didn't expect you to succeed. Wu Yu could certainly understand her difficulties. These are all things of the past. Next, we should look forward. After all, we have finally achieved our goal and met in the heavenly palace. Wu Yu wiped away some of her tears. Yes, Luo Ben nodded. Wu Yu thought for a moment, and said, I don't think I can stay here for long. This time, I came here most to see you, to tell you that I'm still alive, and then to confirm your current situation. Now everything is perfect, and I may have to leave. After all, there are too many strong people here. Can I come to see you as Ao Yang in the future? Just say that I took you to the heavenly palace and became friends. Luo Ben's face was slightly dim, and she murmured, as Ao Yang, of course I can, but I don't want to be separated from you. Wu Yu shook his head and said, no, this Yanlong Emperor realm is the most suitable place for you. I can't take you away from here. If you follow me outside, there is no safety guarantee and no one to guide you. Luo Ben chuckled, knocked on Wu Yu's head, and said, what are you thinking about? I want you to stay here openly. If you can stay here, or enter and exit Xianlong Emperor realm freely with your own identity, that would of course be a good thing. But the key is that this is the territory of the Shenlong. I came here secretly, and can I still make it public? Wu Yu couldn't wait to stick with her every day. After all, he had a lot of time now. In addition to the illusory goal of eternal life, his goal was to stay with Luo Bin. Watching her practice and watching her smile every day. Just as he said this, Wu Yu suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Buzz. A distance locked him. Although he was still in the immortal dragon realm, he had an extra layer of film on his body. He seemed to be locked in a world, unable to move, and even his flesh and blood began to break. This was the terrifying suppression brought by an absolute strong man. Wu, that immortal. He actually sneaked into my immortal dragon realm. And dared to sneak into our demon hunting battlefield. There was a roar in the distance, the sound was very loud, it was the voice of the golden immortal dragon. This sound spread very far, and it was estimated that soon, the little dragons around could hear it. Sure enough, the huge golden Xuanhuan dragon appeared in front of Wu Yu and Luo Bin. He looked at Wu Yu with a furious face. He was probably worried about Luo Bin, so he said, "You'd better give me a reason not to kill you, otherwise I'll kill you instantly." It's normal for immortals to appear in the fairy world, but the hunting demon battlefield is where the dragons train young dragons. The dragon clan attaches great importance to inheritance, so if something goes wrong here, the golden Xuanhuan dragon will be held responsible. Is this the power of the realm master? It's completely impossible to resist and move. Wu Yu clearly felt and experienced it. In front of this golden Xuanhuan dragon, he was like a chicken with no power. The opponent's power to control the world and the power of the immortal king shocked him too much. Somersault cloud, there is no way at all, it should be like a fixed body technique, can't move at all. The power of the world penetrated into the body, even the immortal gods, immortal essence and Buddha essence can't move. Wu Yu guessed that the golden fairy dragon was unwilling to give up and wanted to come and see Luo Bin, but met Wu Yu. And Wu Yu was so close to Luo Bin, of course he attacked instantly. Luo Bin was furious when she saw Wu Yu being controlled like this. She looked at the golden fairy dragon with red eyes and said, "I warn you. Let him go quickly. He is the most important person to me. He is also the guest of my adoptive parents. If you kill him, I will make your dragon head fall to the ground." She was very smart and knew what to say at this time. This is the fairy world, the territory of the ancient fairy dragon. The most important person, the guest of the Bian Dragon King, knew the weight of Wu Yu. The dragon head fell to the ground, which was a threat to Luo Bin. She was actually just a little dragon, and the other party was a dragon king. In terms of contribution to the dragon clan, of course the dragon king was more respected, but there was a stronger existence behind Luo Bin, so he had to bow his head. In fact, Lupin seemed to have a good temper. This was her second time to attack today, but this time was much more terrifying than the last time. She had been the Dragon Lord for too long and was used to being high and mighty, so she still had some domineering aura. What? Distinguished guest, Xuanhuan Dragon Lord didn't think too much about it. He thought it was an outsider who broke in here. But seeing Lupin so angry and nervous, he knew it was not the case. "Let him go," Lupin said one more sentence. Xuanhuan Dragon Lord was forced by her pressure to stop imprisoning Wu Yu. At this time, some little dragons heard the sound and ran here. They thought the situation was a bit strange, and there was one more person, so they watched from the side and did not come forward. There were more and more little dragons. Xuanhuan Dragon King was a little embarrassed. He coughed twice to resolve the embarrassment. In fact, although Lupin spoke harshly, his voice was not loud. It is estimated that the other little dragons did not hear it, so he would not lose face. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. He asked seriously, "Lupin, please tell me clearly, who is this immortal who sneaked into the hunting demon battlefield? As the master of Qianlong Peak, I must protect your safety. For such people with unknown origins, I must certainly prevent him from harming you. So, what I did just now is reasonable. Lupin also stopped when she saw the good. She said, reply to the master, I was also worried about him just now, so I was a little impulsive, and I said something to the master, please don't be offended. In this way, she also gave the Xuanhuan Dragon King a way out. The little dragons didn't quite understand, but they knew that the focus was on the immortal next to Lupin. Who is this person? Is he an immortal? It turns out that immortals are indeed the same as our human form. He seems to be quite good looking, a strange feeling. What is the relationship between him and the little princess Lupin? Because Lupin appeared out of thin air and was a noble existence, they gave her a nickname, called Little Princess. In this fairy world, she is indeed almost like a princess. After all, Wu Jun, the Dragon King of the fairy world, has no descendants. Xuanhuan Dragon King was still unhappy. After all, he was scolded by a junior. He asked with a stern face, then you have to explain clearly, what is the relationship between this person and you? How did he get here? Luo Bin looked at Wu Yu, her attitude seemed very determined. At this time, she faced Xuanhuan Dragon King and many little dragons and said very straightforwardly, you all know that I practiced in the mortal world for hundreds of years before I became an immortal and was brought here by the Jian Immortal Palace. Hundreds of years in the mortal world is actually a long time for us. What do you want to say? Xuanhuan Dragon King frowned. Luo Bin was very determined and said, aren't you asking what the relationship between him and me is? Then I will tell you that he is my husband in the mortal world. We have been together for hundreds of years. He also became an immortal, so he came to the Xianlong Emperor realm to see me. As for how he came in, it was arranged by my parents and has nothing to do with you. Wow! For some of the little dragons who grew up here, this news is really exciting. After all, they still think of themselves as babies. Lupin came here and was much more mature than them, but they still subconsciously thought that Lupin was a dragon baby like them. But they didn't expect that she actually had a husband in the mortal world. It was equivalent to a dragon baby in their eyes, actually having a husband. So, they stared at Wu Yu with wide eyes. And these two words are of great significance to Wu Yu. The Immortal Dragon Emperor realm is an extremely important place for Lupin. To be honest, they didn't form a Taoist couple. However, Lupin was here and said directly that Wu Yu was her husband in the mortal world. This was her determination and persistence. How could Wu Yu not be moved by this? After all, he hadn't hugged Lupin yet and told the world that this was his woman, his wife. In front of the surrounding dragons, Lupin had a promising future. But she didn't care at all. After seeing everything she had here, Wu Yu originally planned to leave, let her develop well here, and occasionally come back to see her, or as a yang. Unexpectedly, she directly said that he was her husband. He wanted to hold her in his arms and kiss her hard. But Lupin had already hugged his waist and said to Xuanhuan Dragon King, we have practiced together and become immortals together for countless years. When Wu Yu saw Xuanhuan Dragon King, he was completely stunned. Wu Yu knew what the old man was thinking. He thought Lupin was young and ignorant. He wanted to take advantage of her young age to use his extraordinary strength to make her feel good about him. In the future, he would climb up to be in Dragon King and others, and then he would be successful. But he didn't expect that Wu Yu would appear halfway. Then he can't break in here. Xuanhuan Dragon King was actually so angry that he was incoherent. Lupin said, this is his fault. I apologize to you on his behalf and promise not to come in again. I will take him back to Canyon Peak now, and you can continue. After all, Lupin said that Wu Yu was brought in by Bian Dragon King and his men, so no matter how dissatisfied Xuanhuan Dragon King is, he cannot doubt it. Because of what Lupin meant, Wu Yu has been here for a long time. At this time, Lupin wanted to take Wu Yu to Canyon Peak. Xuanhuan Dragon King frowned and said, "No, he broke into my demon hunting battlefield, I have to take him to see Bean Dragon King and Bacon Dragon King in person. You stay here." He obviously suspected that what Lupin said might not be true. Today's second update. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1277. If he takes him to Qinyin Peak in person without Luo Bin accompanying him, then of course Dragon King Bai Yin and the others will not know who Wu Yu is. Maybe Wu Yu was killed on the spot. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. So of course Luo Bin demanded, "No, I must go back with him. This will save you from talking nonsense in front of my parents." To be honest, the current concubine Luo is the thorn in Xuanhuan Longjun's group of students. If he wasn't a little unwilling, there was really no need for him to confront Luo Bin. Because he definitely can't defeat her. This is the fairy world, and no one will stand on his side. I still insist on it now, just for the sake of face. Of course, it didn't matter to him whether Luo Bin followed him or not. If Dragon King Bai Yin opposed the two of them, he would be exposed on the spot. Xuanhuan Longjun certainly knows that it is difficult for an immortal to marry a Shenlong. Not to mention the top ultimate dragon. He suspected that Dragon King Bai Yin and the others did not know about this matter at all. "Okay, then come with me, everyone else, continue the trial," Xuanhuan Dragon Lord angrily scolded. He glared at Wu Yu, then controlled Wu Yu and Luo Bin, easily pulling them out of the demon hunting field, then jumped into the air, heading towards Qinyin Peak at a terrifying speed. Needless to say, Qinyin Peak is the territory of Bai Yin Dragon King and Bai Qin Dragon King. The Dragon King Bai Yin is named Wu Hao, which of course has the same surname as Wu Yu. The Bacon Dragon King is named Yeqianning. The speed of the realm Lord God realm is so terrifying that the surrounding scenery recedes and cannot be seen at all. Wu Yu looked at Luo Bin next to him, who was very calm and smiled at him, obviously knowing what he was doing. "Aren't you worried? Your adoptive father and stepmother are not cooperating at all? Or are they unwilling to cooperate? After all, if you announce it directly like this, I guess they won't be able to accept it. Luo Bin is taking risks." "Don't worry, I understand them," Luo Bin said. "If I, as Ao Yang, come to see you from time to time, I don't have to take such risks, right?" Wu Yu asked her. "Because these are all decided by her." Luo Bin shook her head and said, "I don't like that. I want you to stay here for a long time. I don't want to be with you and sneak around. And it won't last long at all. If it happens too many times, others will always doubtful. After all, Ao Yang is nothing in this world of Immortal Dragon Emperor." Of course Wu Yu also wanted to tell her that he should stay here above board. "Of course, I want this too, but I don't know the specific situation. Will they be willing to let you be with me?" Wu Yu clearly remembered what Ao Yang said to him. In fact, it was precisely because of these the words hurt Wu Yu too much, so he killed Ao Yang. The Shenlong clan still rejects outsiders and tarnishes their bloodlines. They attach great importance to inheritance, especially the inheritance of top bloodlines, because the Shenlongs and immortal beasts must reproduce to grow stronger, otherwise they will become increasingly declining. There is a certain hope. Wu Yu, are you willing not to care about some face things for us? For example, if we become an immortal couple, the Shenlong clan can only accept bring in, that is to say, in the future, they are considered members of the Shenlong clan. They don't pay attention to their surnames. Our children will still have your surname. Wu Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, "My child, this is too far away. In fact, being able to be with you and becoming husband and wife is enough. What you said is all false." Of course he doesn't care about what Luo Bin said, because these are not the key, especially in heaven. As long as you are strong enough, who cares whether you are a wife or something, and the fairy beast group with inheritance like the dragon fairy beast, worry about strong they are trying to attract top immortals to work for them. Since Lugobin is the princess here, it would be great to be a prince-in-law here. Wu Yu has even been a cheap emperor. After hearing this, Lugobin smiled with satisfaction and said, I knew you wouldn't care about these trivial details, so I feel relieved. In fact, I also know that even ordinary dragons will encounter some obstacles when they want to combine with immortals. Generally, they need the immortals to be stronger, more talented, and able to serve the dragon, and then they will be willing. And if you fully meet these conditions, you will have a bright future. Of course, because I am the ultimate dragon, I may encounter more obstacles. Big. When she said this, she told Wu Yu softly, but I once tried to ask my adoptive mother, and she said that she supports my pursuit of true love. Because they are in love, and they know how important this is. She said that no matter who I like, she will support me. After all, they are both ancient fairy dragons, and it is difficult for them to give birth to a descendant, so they are bearish. After hearing what she said, Wu Yu knew that her foster father and mother were indeed very good. After all, this kind of thinking may be a bit random for most of the top dragons. She has already sacrificed so much for the two of them to be together. After Wu Yu knew this, he said, I was afraid of affecting you. I knew you were fine, so I wanted to leave. But now, I have decided that no matter what obstacles I encounter, I will stay by your side. Go. Fight to win the respect and admiration of this dragon clan. Let me marry you openly. Let us not meet in secret, so that everyone will envy us. Lupin chuckled. She was so happy in her heart that she was so beautiful. She smiled and said, Silly, you think too much. What do you mean you marry me? Here, I marry you. I didn't expect that she could be so humorous. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the wonderful content. Don't be like this. I still have dignity. Wu Yu had a black line on his forehead. Are you sure? For the sake of beauty, dignity can be worth a few cents. Let's forget it, haha. I haven't been so happy for a long time. That's the feeling of two people's hearts, tightly together. Wu Yu understands her, and she also understands Wu Yu. Wu Yu decided that no matter what kind of storm he encountered, he would accompany her, truly, openly, and get the respect of the dragon. This requires him to be stronger, and he is ready. Just after he finished speaking, Qin Yinfen arrived. Reporting to Bai Yin Dragon King, Bai Qin Dragon King, Xuanhuan Dragon King requests to see you. After arriving outside, Xuanhuan Dragon King still needs to announce his name first. Is Benner back? Come in. A gentle female voice came from a mountain that is taller than Qianlong Peak. As soon as you hear it, you know that it is an extremely gentle woman, and she must be very beautiful. This must be Lugobin's current stepmother Yeqianning. She is also an ancient fairy dragon. Yes, Xuanhuang Dragon King took Lugobin and Wu Yu all the way up. Although Lugobin was very calm, Wu Yu was still a little nervous about accepting the challenge soon. After all, he might be exposed. There were two extremely terrifying auras above, which were top-level Taixu Fairyland powerhouses. It was the first time Wu Yu had seen such a strong man. Are you nervous because you are going to see my parents? Don't worry, they are very kind. Lugobin smiled. In the mortal world, Lugobin lost her parents at a young age. Actually, this is not the case. After all, these are the newly recognized parents. In Lupin's heart, they are definitely not as close as Wu Yu. But when she said that, she really felt like an ugly daughter-in-law meeting her parents-in-law. And the more she thought about it, the more nervous she became. What if they were not satisfied with her? Boom! Xuanhuang Dragon King rushed out of the clouds. At this time, he could see that on the top of the peak, there was a huge snow-white palace, which was the Qinyin Palace. Lupin also lived here. Passing through the fairy mist, Xuanhuan Dragon King landed in front of the beautiful Qinyin Palace. It was so beautiful here. Looking around, there was a sea of clouds. This Qinyin Palace seemed to be a city built on the clouds. It was huge, white, and built with a top-grade fairy jade. It was integrated. Wu Yu almost suffocated, because in front of the Qinyin Palace, there was a huge snow-white dragon. It was indeed an ancient fairy dragon, dozens of times larger than Luo Bin, with fairy spirit all over its body, pure and natural. Whether it was dragon scales or dragon head, they were all perfect. Judging from the expression, this should be Luo Bin's stepmother, Bacon Dragon King Yeqianing. And at the same time, there was a more majestic and huge ancient fairy dragon flying out of the huge Qinyin Palace. This dragon was obviously majestic, domineering, and serious, and might be more powerful, so the pressure was greater. After all, it was Tegzu Fairyland, the top fairy in the entire Tiangong, and Wu Yu's future goal. It was normal to cause such a shock to Wu Yu. The feeling they gave Wu Yu was beyond the realm of the Lord of the Realm. It was an illusory realm that was completely unclear. He always felt that he was at a level above the fairy, illusory, and even felt that he had transcended this world, and the whole world could not control them. The new one was of course Wu Hao, Bian Dragon King. As soon as the Bian Dragon King came out, he said, "Why did you bring Binner back in person?" But she got into trouble in Qianlong Peak. Facing the Bian Dragon King and the other two, Xuanhuan Dragon King was a little trembling. Of course, he didn't dare to imprison Wu Yu and Luo Bin anymore, but he had to say first, that's definitely not the case. Luo Bin performed very well in Qianlong Peak. It was just that today when we were in the monster hunting battlefield, her husband slipped there and was caught by me. After all, he is an immortal, and it is not appropriate for him to go to the monster hunting battlefield, so I brought him back to you too. As for Luo Bin, she had to come back with him. He had thought of this wording on the way here. Once the Bian Dragon King and the other two didn't know about Wu Yu's existence, they would definitely be shocked or even furious when they heard the word husband. This would reveal the truth. Xuanhuan Dragon King is very cunning. Wu Yu was also nervous because he really felt the terror and power of these two dragons. Almost suffocated. He looked at the Bian Dragon King, and the Bian Dragon King's eyes swept over Wu Yu at this time, and Wu Yu felt a chill in his heart. This moment was indeed too long, as if time had stopped, and Wu Yu was sweating all over. Until a certain moment, the Bian Dragon King spoke. "Oh, I didn't tell him clearly, you go first, I will discipline you." It was a very simple sentence. But Wu Yu heard that the Bian Dragon King really loved Luo Bin. He didn't know anything, but he could still be so calm when he heard the word husband. Let Xuanhuan Dragon King go first, which explained everything. Wu Hao, Yeqianing, are also the names of the 5-star rated supporting roles from the Doubao store Feng Qingyang Studio. Because these two names were well chosen, they directly became main characters. Search for the shop Feng Qingyang Studio on Doubao, buy it, and after receiving the clothes, leave a 5-star review in the clothes comment area and add the name of the character you want to appear in the book, and you can appear in the book. After all, these characters exist, and I am also exhausted thinking of names every day. These two names are well chosen, and they have become feminist parents directly, which is a great advantage. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1278. In fact, Xuanhuan Dragon King still had some confidence. Because he thought, if Wu Yu was really picked up by Bian Dragon King and his men, he should have heard some rumors. But now the answer of Bian Dragon King made him give up. It turned out that Luo Bin really had a mortal husband. The key is that these two ancient fairy dragon kings claim to be supportive. That's the ultimate dragon. I see, but the Dragon King is the ultimate dragon after all. Before Xuanhuan Dragon King finished speaking, Luo Bin's stepmother, Bacon Dragon King Yechianing interrupted him and asked, Xuanhuan Dragon King, do you want to take care of our family affairs? The golden Xuanhuan dragon hurriedly bowed his head and said, I dare not, then I will take my leave first and will not disturb you. He knew that although Bacon Dragon King spoke gently, it would be miserable to anger her. Now it seems that this matter is obviously not something he can control. He is quite tactful. After saying goodbye, he hurriedly left. In front of the vast Kanyin palace, only Wu Yu, Luo Bin, and the two Dragon Kings were left. Even the immortal Huang Dragon King was so awed in front of the Taixu fairyland. Of course, Wu Yu was not particularly comfortable with the gazes of the two Dragon Kings. After all, he was a surprise to them. There was a moment of silence at first. Then Luo Bin immediately stood up. She was very sincere and said to the two Dragon Kings, adoptive father, adoptive mother, I didn't mean to hide it from you, but I also wanted to prepare a better time to tell you. He is my husband in the mortal world. We practiced together, grew up together, became immortals together, and went through many disasters. If it weren't for him, I would not be in this world long ago. He is the love of my life. I only recognize him in this life. His name is Wu Yu. I only recognize him in this life. For Wu Yu, it was rare for her to say such words in such an occasion. What she said was simple and slightly untrue. After all, they had not been together for that long in the mortal world. However, in order for the two people to accept it, Luo Bin had to say this. These were two top immortals worthy of respect, the Dragon King of Taixu Fairyland. Although they were adoptive fathers and mothers, they were also parents. Wu Yu half knelt on the ground and said respectfully, Wu Yu, meet the two elders. She and I once agreed that I would come to find her after becoming an immortal. This time I sneaked into the immortal Dragon Emperor realm, came to the Tianxing clan, traveled through 79 realms, and found her in the immortal spirit realm. Unfortunately, I was discovered by the immortal Huang Dragon King. In order to save me, she could only tell the truth in front of the immortal Huang Dragon King. Wu Yu also told them the whole story so that they would know what happened. Meeting in the heavenly palace and staying together is the oath we once made and our dream. I hope that you too can fulfill it. Luo Bin's eyes were full of seriousness. They finished talking. In just a few words, it was clearly expressed that they loved each other and did not want to be separated by any force. Wu Yu and Luo Bin also looked at them a little nervously. Wu Yu did not expect that such a powerful dragon would take in Luo Bin, so now, the decision of the two of them is very critical. The Bai Yin Dragon King and the Bai Qin Dragon King looked at Wu Yu and the others, and then looked at each other. Obviously, what happened today was too unexpected for them. Bai Qin Dragon King first said softly, don't kneel first, stand up and talk. Let's go back home first, don't talk outside. Children, come in with us. Yes, stepmother. Luo Bin saw some hope. Wu Yu also saw that Yechianing really loved her as she said, and was a gentle and well-educated person. Bai Yin Dragon King did not speak, but he turned around and went back to Qin Yin Palace first, and Yechianing followed behind. Luo Bin and Wu Yu looked at each other. The two did not know what their reaction was for the time being, so they could only follow in. Wu Yu certainly knew that he was a big trouble for the two Dragon Kings. Walking into the elegant and warm Kanyin Palace, Wu Yu was attracted by the murals and sculptures. Many of the murals and sculptures were extremely artistic and beautiful, and even contained a deep Tao. After a few glances, he felt that he had benefited a lot. It was fascinating. These are all the works of my godfather. He usually lets me see them often. This way I can understand a lot of things. Luo Bin whispered beside him. Indeed, it was magical. Because of the existence of these two Taixu fairyland, the entire palace has risen to another realm. Wu Yu can only feel it, but he doesn't understand the truth inside. But just for this, he admired the two dragon kings. Going deep into the hall, there is a hall where the body of Bian Dragon King can move freely. He turned around and stood side by side with Bacon Dragon King, and Wu Yu and the other two had just come in. At this time, their eyes were still locked on Wu Yu. Especially the Bian Dragon King. "You, are you also surnamed Wu?" asked Bian Dragon King Wu Hao. Wu Yu nodded. Ye Qianing said beside him, "Okay, don't be so stern, you're scaring the children. Just say whatever you want to say." "Go ahead." Wu Hao shook his head and frowned a little. "Then I'll say it." Ye Qianing looked at Wu Yu and the others and said, "To be honest, this matter is indeed a bit sudden for us, and we are a little slow to react. After all, in our eyes, Binner is like a newborn baby. How can she suddenly have a husband? Her voice is indeed very gentle, and so is her attitude, like water. With her around, Wu Yu sees a lot of hope." She continued, "But it's actually normal. I've been through a lot in the mortal world for hundreds of years. With your presence, cultivating immortality with her, and in a small world. This is a rare fate. I once told her that if you like anyone, you can go for it, we all support her, but..." She paused for a moment, then pursed her lips and shook her head, saying, "We will not interfere, but the obstruction may not be as simple as you young people think. If it is just an ordinary dragon, if the opponent is stronger, willing to work for the dragon clan is basically acceptable. In fact, in the history of the Shenlong clan, there are very few precedents for being a couple with an immortal. So, even if we don't. If you don't stop, other people may come forward to express their dissatisfaction or even block you." Luo Bin nodded and said, "Actually, I know everything. But, we will not give up. I just want my parents to not oppose me. This is enough for me." Ye Qianing said softly, "Silly boy, how could we object? I'm just a little worried. Let me give you the most basic suggestion. If you need to convince the public, the most basic point is that he needs to, or in terms of combat power, I need to be stronger than you. Otherwise, many people may not agree. After all, you are one of the future of our clan." She made it very clear that many things must not be controlled by them. Even if they support it, if Wu Yu is far inferior to Luo Bin, then their obstacles will be considerable. Moreover, so far, they have probably never encountered anyone who came from the small world and was more talented than the ultimate dragon. But Luo Bin was smiling. She looked at Wu Yu and said, "In fact, there is no need to worry about this. Wu Yu is much better than me in terms of talent and combat power. We became immortals at the same time, and he has already reached such a state. In the mortal world, it took me a few hundred years to become an immortal, but he became an immortal in less than 50 years. This was what Wu Yu asked her to say. Since these two people do not object, Wu Yu must get their support and cannot let them worry about him. What? Sure enough, after saying these words, the eyes of the two dragon kings, who were originally worried about their future, changed slightly. You, Immortal Yuan, have already reached the realm of 8 Yuan Celestial Immortal. In less than a year, Wu Hao, the Bian Dragon King, stared at Wu Yu with a serious expression and asked. Wu Yu gritted his teeth and said, "Back to my predecessors, Wu Yu received help and inheritance from a top immortal in the mortal world, and his cultivation progressed rapidly." This was his answer after thinking, otherwise he would not be qualified to be here with Luo Bin. "Which immortal? What's your name?" Wu Hao asked. Wu Yu said, "Due to the immortal's instructions, Wu Yu cannot say anything. Please forgive me." "What realm of immortals?" Wu Hao asked again. "I don't know. To me at that time, the immortals were very powerful. In fact, he deliberately described the Monkey King as alive and existing from the dead. In this way, it is actually more powerful, equivalent to having a person behind Wu Yu. Do you know where he is?" After being passed down, he disappeared and I haven't seen him yet. Wu Yu would not let Wu Hao know anything he wanted to know. After all, he needs to let Wu Hao guess, and he also needs to let the people in the Shenlong clan who are interested in him guess. After all, there are so many powerful people in the heavenly palace. They can guess whoever it is. Use one of his magical powers and let me see it, Wu Hao said again. There's no escaping this. Wu Yu was also very straightforward. What he used was the law of heaven and earth, which directly made him 12 feet tall. He was a top-notch giant, much larger than Luo Bin. He shook hands slightly, and his whole body was full of strength. This magical power is called, Law of Heaven and Earth. It can enhance the strength of my physical body, Wu Yu said. After this magical power was displayed, Wu Yu saw a hint of shock and confusion in the eyes of the couple. Wu Yu made the right bet. Obviously, they did not know the existence of the Monkey King. I don't even know his magical powers. Therefore, he didn't know who the immortal behind Wu Yu was. Wu Hao only said one sentence, "Your immortal energy is upright and your aura is pure. I believe that the honored master must be an upright immortal, and his realm is indeed high." Hearing this, Ye Qianning chuckled and said, "Okay, you stinky old man, stop being so straight-faced. It is indeed a good thing that he has this capital. If this kid can continue to be more talented than my concubine in the future, then they have a good future. You don't have a very powerful son-in-law. Okay, I'm going to cook." Wu Hao didn't bother to say more and went directly into a passage. Cooking, Wu Yu was a little confused. But Luo Bin took his hand at this time and pulled Wu Yu to kneel in front of Na Ye Qianning, with tears in her eyes. "We thank our adoptive father and stepmother for making this possible," she said with a little choked up. Ye Qianning blew lightly and stopped them from kneeling down. There was a gentle light in her eyes and she said, "We are all a family, don't let us see each other outside. We two old guys have been looking forward to it for so many years. This Kinyan Palace can be more lively. We are actually very happy to have you and this child." Long Chen actually didn't expect that everything would go so smoothly. Indeed, I have to thank them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1279. In this immortal Dragon Emperor realm, Wu Yu's first level has passed. For the time being, these two Dragon Kings should still recognize themselves. Now, Wu Hao walked into the depths of the palace, and only Bai Yin Dragon King Ye Qianning was still with them. Ye Qianning suddenly turned into a human form. She was indeed a beautiful woman who could conquer the country. She was almost the most beautiful woman of her age that Wu Yu had ever seen. She said, "My child, since you are here, you don't have to be too restrained. Let me arrange a place for you first." "Thank you, Senior," Wu Yu said respectfully. "It seems that Ye Qianning is willing to stay here for a long time. You don't need to call me Senior. If you don't see anyone else, just call me Antning. For the person inside, just call me Uncle Hao," Ye Qianning said. In fact, although Luo Bin said that the two were already a couple in the mortal world, when they came here, the relationship was temporarily unstable for the Shenlong clan. Therefore, Wu Yu must not be allowed to directly follow Luo Bin. Next, Ye Qianning arranged for Wu Yu to stay in a location not far from Luo Bin's residence, in the Kinyan Palace. Kinyan Palace is very large, so Wu Yu's residence is also quite large. And they are all mysterious and wonderful. The immortal energy here is gathered by the magic circle, which is very suitable for cultivation. From now on, Wu Yu can walk freely in Kinyan Palace. Occasionally there are some hidden places that Wu Yu cannot reach. This is almost acquiescence. Wu Yu can stay here. I told you, they are very good, right, Luo Bin said to Wu Yu. It is indeed very good. You are also very lucky, Wu Yu sighed with emotion. It was indeed a blessing to meet such a foster father and mother in this vast heaven. On the way, Ye Qianing also asked Wu Yu some questions about the mortal world and the immortal queen. She did not ask about private matters, and Wu Yu also talked about the matter. I really don't know which powerful immortal valued you. But actually, when we first saw you, we knew that you were very talented. At your age, you are considered a newborn to us. Xiaolong. I didn't expect that you have so much experience. It seems that the immortal is looking for a successor in the mortal world. Once you become an immortal, your capital, experience and talent will be much better than other immortals. After all, they were in Tegzu Fairyland and could see many things that Wu Yu and the others could not see. Wu Yu could probably guess that they must think highly of Wu Yu, the inheritance god. If not, they would definitely be worried about Wu Yu's future. It's almost done. Let's go and try your Uncle Hao's craftsmanship. Ye Qianing greeted them and headed towards the Miajin Hall. What's the meaning? My adoptive father is very good at cooking. They are different from the food in the world. They are all made of top-notch fairy spirits. They are better than elixirs and they are also delicious. You can gain a lot of immortality by eating one meal. In this aspect, his achievements, at least in the Tianxing clan, no one can compare with him, Luo Bin said. He turned out to be a chef. I can't tell that Wu Hao, the boss with such a face, has such a hobby. During the long years, besides practicing, they really loved to study other things. When Wu Yu saw the Manhan banquet, he was really shocked. Although they are all fairies and no meat, the whole table is full of fairy energy and fragrant. They are all top-notch fairies. It is estimated that even the soup can make a mortal live 100 years. This was also the first time Wu Yu saw him, and he was completely impressed by Wu Hao. Of course, they live like dragons every day, so the portions are quite large, and even the dining table is very big. If Wu Yu doesn't use the magic of heaven and earth, he will be like a little ant in Miajin Palace, so he still use the Dharma, heaven, elephant and earth skillfully to transform yourself into a giant, and then enjoy this delicious meal. The family of 4 were located around the dining table. Wu Yu was still admiring the Taoism and art revealed in the dishes, as well as the immortal formation. Ye Qianing raised her glass and said, Wu Yu, welcome, come to Kinyan Palace, and we, the 3 of us, will toast to you. Wu Yu acted like a son-in-law who came to the door. He quickly picked up the wine glass. The wine glass contained a fiery red spirit. Just by smelling it, he knew that it was fragrant, mellow, very strong, and difficult to bear. Thank you, Uncle Hao. Antning Wu Yu has not experienced such a scene for a long time. It was a feeling that only mortals could experience in the immortal kingdom. He did not expect to be able to experience it again in the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. He thought that all immortals were he's aloof and doesn't care about the world. This is wine brewed by ancient immortals. It's very strong. Drink less. Even the gods will get drunk before drinking, Luo Bin reminded Wu Yu in a low voice. That ancient fairy spirit has more than 100 spiritual lines, and its growth may take more than a few yuan, or even more than 10 yuan. It is very rare. It's okay, big man. If you can't drink a glass of wine, how can you be responsible, Wu Hao said lightly. In this case, Wu Yu could only be more aggressive. Luo Bin drank very little, but he could only do it. This was definitely the strongest wine Wu Yu had ever drunk. After one sip, his whole body was on fire, and every Buddha statue was trembling. Except for Lai, after being digested, it quickly transformed into a terrifying force that swept through his whole body. Exploding the body, all of a sudden, the body is smoking. Let you drink less. Luo Bin complained. It's okay, haha, I'm happy today. Immortal wine can also anesthetize the nerves. After one drink, Wu Yu has already let go. Wu Hao, on the other hand, was also a straightforward person. Seeing that Wu Yu was still in the realm of celestial immortals, he dared to drink the ancient spiritual immortal wine he brewed. There was admiration between his eyebrows. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. However, he was also excited, and naturally wanted to try to see where Wu Yu's limit was. So, they started to argue. Next, Wu Yu enjoyed the supreme food while competing with Wu Hao in drinking. The ancient spiritual immortal wine had little effect on Wu Hao, but Wu Yu almost drank until his whole body turned blood red. However, he was also a giant beast with a strong digestive ability. When the ancient spiritual immortal wine entered his stomach, it was quickly decomposed into pure power and stored in the Black Buddha statue. The older it got, the more it was, which was equivalent to the effect of Wu Yu devouring his flesh and blood. A meal took an hour. Wu Yu and Wu Hao were the protagonists here. Luo Bin and Ye Qianing could only look at each other helplessly at the end. At this time, the two men seemed to have known each other for a long time, laughing and chatting. Sure enough, they got familiar with each other faster at the wine table. That's enough. If you pour more, he won't be able to hold on. To this extent, it really shows that his body and immortal spirit are extremely powerful, no worse than the 9 profound Dao realm Ye Qianing whispered to Wu Hao. In fact, they were also testing whether Wu Yu was really capable. You underestimated him. He hasn't reached his limit yet. However, my ancient spirit immortal wine is gone. It's a sin. Half of this fine wine fell into this kid's mouth. I brewed it for 8,000 years to get this taste. Wu Hao's heart was bleeding, and he didn't want to continue. Wu Yu, stay in Qinyan Palace in the future. You can ask us about cultivation. As for the concubine, you still have to go to Qianlong Peak, Ye Qianing said at last. This is equivalent to Wu Yu passing their test. The test at the wine table. Thank you, foster father and mother. Luo Bin was very happy. Although she had to go to Qianlong Peak didn't always have courses. Basically, she could come back once every 10 days or even at any time. There will be many opportunities to meet in the future. Wu Yu can also make a lot of progress by practicing quietly here. For example, the effect of this meal tonight is equivalent to swallowing a lot of opponents. Take him to rest first, Ye Qianing said to Luo Bin. Wu Yu is of course still sober. The ancient spirit wine is very mysterious, but Wu Yu's swallowing ability is more terrifying. The reason why he can't hold on now is mainly in terms of strength. For such a meal, Luo Bin can only eat a little, while Wu Yu eats 100 times her. The two said goodbye and returned to their residence. Wu Yu quickly calmed down and said, the test of your adoptive father and mother is still quite scary, but it is also quite interesting. Luo Bin said, you are still talking, I am so worried. I only dare to drink a small sip of the ancient spirit wine, and you drink it down 1 cup after another. I am not afraid of losing my life. Don't worry, it's a piece of cake. Wu Yu was still a little excited to drink to cheer himself up. You are so happy. My godfather must be very sad. He usually treats this ancient spirit wine like a treasure. You drank so much of it? Ah, Wu Yu thought he had a lot of it. However, he could not care less. After returning to his residence, Wu Yu said, I can't accompany you. I have to digest these powers first. You can go to Qianlong Palace for classes as before. Yeah. Now Wu Yu has the opportunity to stay here, and there will be more time to be bored in the future. The time of Immortals is long. Wu Yu's cultivation and digestion now actually often consume a lot of time. He mainly wants to think about the Bodhi Immortal Dao method, increase the number of Bodhi seeds, and let these vast energies be transformed into Bodhi Immortal Yuan. Otherwise, it will be wasted over time. In fact, he has not sat down and practiced well for a long time. Now that he has seen Luo Bin, he can stay here quietly and feel more at ease. It's time to continue to become stronger. He now has the experience of practicing Taoism at the level of Xianxian. From Ao Ding. The cultivation experience of Ao Yang, the 9 Yuan celestial immortal, was also helpful to Wu Yu. Wu Yu could still ponder the Bodhi immortal Dao with the thinking, perspective and experience of dozens of immortals and ghosts. This time he pondered the 5th level. The 5th level can create 81 Bodhi seeds. Calm down and rely on the Tao, experience and thinking methods that have been swallowed to solve the problem. The immortals in the ancient Mo world have limited thinking, but with the addition of Lu Yuan Qing, Ao Yang and Ao Ding, especially Ao Ding, who has cultivated to the Xianxian realm, these problems do not seem to be particularly difficult for his Tao. Wu Yu once again had a smooth journey. After a month, he comprehended the 5th level of the Bodhi immortal Dao and had 81 Bodhi seeds. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1280. Of course, these Bodhi seeds are dim. However, Wu Yu had already gathered a lot of energy during that meal. If he didn't transform it, he would probably explode. The extra Bodhi seeds were his life-saving straw. He used the powerful transformation ability of the Bodhi Immortal Dao method to gather a large amount of Bodhi Immortal Yuan and light up those Bodhi seeds. Because the energy of the ancient spirit wine was too high, when all 81 Bodhi seeds were complete, there were actually a lot of surplus. But Wu Yu was still stronger than before. He continued to ponder the 8th level of the Bodhi Immortal Dao method, which might take a little longer. Of course, there was no need to retreat this time. Every time Luo Bin came back from Qianlong Peak, Wu Yu could accompany her. The two traveled together, played everywhere, and were simply a couple of gods and had a great time. Wu Yu settled down in this fairy dragon emperor world. He and Luo Bin lived a dream life in the mortal world. Staying together, free and unrestrained, envied by others. The two of them became stronger together, and they kept close to each other and talked about everything. In Kinyan Palace, Bian Dragon King and Bacon Dragon King often practiced and rarely appeared. Occasionally, Wu Hao was in high spirits and had another big meal, but he seemed to have never taken out the ancient spiritual immortal wine again. Time passed bit by bit. Occasionally, Wu Yu went to Qianlong Peak to see her and pick her up. Wu Yu lived in this fairy world, and it was impossible for others not to know his existence. In fact, the news had spread on his first day in Qianlong Peak. People knew that this was Luo Bin's husband in the mortal world, an immortal. The immortal husband of the ultimate dragon, this is big news. Even if Wu Yu didn't go out, the news would spread to other realms and could not be stopped at all. In fact, he had guessed that this would be an explosive news in this peaceful world. Wu Hao and others had reminded Wu Yu that if he wanted to be with Luo Bin, he would definitely have to endure many challenges, and even some challenges could only be relied on Wu Yu himself, and they could not help. Whether he can stay with Luo Bin forever, the last thing to look at is Wu Yu himself. This is normal. The dragons certainly don't want their top bloodline and genius girl to marry outside. These days, Wu Yu occasionally goes out, and some dragons see him and look at him with some special eyes. Of course, they dare not face Wu Yu. After all, they heard that it was the two dragon kings who took Wu Yu in, and Wu Yu still lives in the Qinyan Palace. Xuanhuan Dragon King originally wanted to take Wu Yu to the court to ask for punishment, but was also sent away by the two dragon kings. Hearing such a story, the dragons were not so stupid as to do anything to Wu Yu. But the strange eyes were everywhere, and even when Luo Bin went out alone, some people asked some not very polite questions. Wu Yu expected all of this. He deeply understood that it was his own fighting power that ultimately determined everything. It was a great thing that Wu Hao and Ye Qianing could help him, otherwise, Wu Yu would have been driven out of the immortal dragon emperor realm long ago. Therefore, he and Luo Bin are very aware of these rumors and will not care too much, but focus on cultivation, and the two will make progress together. Although Luobin has just come here, she is almost close to the realm of dual Yuan celestial immortals. And as they get to know each other, the Dragon King and his wife also like Wu Yu very much. In their opinion, Wu Yu is a tough, responsible, and highly motivated person. At the same time, he is very smart, sees things very clearly, but can remain calm in the face of difficulties. In fact, Wu Hao is not a bad person. Although he has a stern face most of the time and speaks very directly, he can see the feelings between Wu Yu and Luobin. The feelings are real and cannot deceive the couple, because the couple has gone a long way on the road of love. Wu Yu dared to come to this fairy world, which is enough to show his determination and boldness. In a peaceful life, Wu Yu and her enjoy this wonderful time together, and at the same time he is also stepping up his cultivation. In addition to pondering the Bodhi Immortal Dao Fa, Wu Yu also pondered the nine-phase Tathagata Supreme Buddha body. Both are equally important. The nine-phase Tathagata Supreme Buddha needs a primer. And in a place like the immortal spirit realm, of course there are such things for sale. Of course, Lupin can also ask her parents for it, there is definitely one. However, Wu Yu will definitely not be willing to rely on her adoptive father and mother to practice. It is not very convenient for him to appear in the busy city of this immortal spirit realm, otherwise he will definitely be surrounded by many dragons. So, he asked Lupin to spend most of Yang's savings to buy 3 things. They are: the fairy treasure heavy earth boulder with 99 spiritual patterns, the fairy essence of 93 spiritual patterns, Jialan evil wind, the high-level fairy pill, Yongding Xuanli pill. The primers of the next Earth Phase World Realm, Wind Phase World Realm and Thunder Phase World Realm are all complete. These things can construct 3 worlds if successful. Wu Yu can reach the 7th level of the 9-phase Tathagata Supreme Buddha body. Of course, this is not easy. He originally wanted to buy the primers for the last 2 levels of the Dark World Realm and the Light World Realm, but Luobin searched everywhere and didn't find any for the time being. After all, these 2 types are indeed rare. Some are too high level for Wu Yu to use, and some are too low level and have no effect. What Wu Yu needs is not available. Of course, the distance is a bit far, so there is no need to rush for the time being. He pushed forward both the immortal essence and the Buddha essence at the same time. For him, in fact, he already has quite a lot of attack methods and magical powers. Now, what determines his fighting power is still the Bodhi Immortal Yuan and the 9-phase Vajra Buddha Yuan. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. In the next 6 months, he used the heavy earth boulder to cultivate the 9-phase Tathagata Supreme Buddha body to the 5th level, the Earth Phase World Realm. Then he used the Jialan evil wind to cultivate the 9-phase Tathagata Supreme Buddha body to the 6th level, the Wind Phase World Realm. Currently, he has reached the 6th level and possesses a mixture of 6 kinds of Vajra Buddha Yuan. In terms of Bodhi Immortal Dao Fa, he has made greater progress, first reaching the 6th level, and then reaching the 7th level. Now, he has 729 Bodhi seeds. In terms of realm, one is equivalent to the 6-element celestial immortal, and the other is equivalent to the 7-element celestial immortal, which is already very high. However, his money has been spent. The power of the ancient spirit wine from the last meal had long been digested. After not swallowing for a long time, in fact, now, his Earth Phase World Realm and Wind Phase World Realm basically have little Buddha essence, and most of the Bodhi seeds are empty and not lit. Although my realm is high now, my strength has not increased much. These immortal essences and Buddha essences still need to absorb immortal energy and slowly transform. After all, there are no immortal pills or the like. Fortunately, there is enough immortal energy here, and Wu Yu can enrich himself with just time, which may take decades. This is normal for ordinary immortals, but for Wu Yu, he certainly thinks it is too long. Now, relying on Ao Ding's Tao and wisdom, it is already difficult to make the Bodhi immortal Taoism and the nine-phase Tathagata Supreme Buddha body improve. Next, if he does not swallow, he really has to rely on himself. Of course, Wu Yu is very satisfied with his terrifying level of progress. His combat effectiveness has also increased a lot now. Others, without the Tao and memory of stronger immortals, simply do not have the growth rate of Wu Yu. Wu Yu can think about problems from the perspective of dozens of immortals, but others can't. Wu Yu continued to practice, and next, he wanted to successfully shape the Thunder Phase world realm. As for the immortal essence and immortal pills, they can only be accumulated slowly. In fact, if he asked the two Dragon Kings, there would definitely be some. But Wu Yu was born stubborn, and he would never ask. Luo Ben knew him and knew that he wanted to rely on himself for everything, so she let him go. After all, Wu Yu's progress was too fast, completely leaving her behind, and she was a little anxious. Now Wu Yu is simply not an immortal. The two Dragon Kings certainly knew about his progress in realm, and perhaps this strengthened their determination to support Wu Yu to a certain extent. Time passed. For half a year, Wu Yu was often with Luo Ben, and was extremely familiar with every inch of her. But he didn't take the last step. Because Luo Ben said that she wanted to stay when they were really married, and wanted to marry her openly. Of course Wu Yu respected her, because this was not the most important thing. And Wu Yu also knew that if he got her before getting real permission, it would anger many powerful people among the dragons. In the past 6 months, some people disturbed him, but Wu Yu didn't pay much attention. He was still trying to get stronger, and then enjoying the feeling of being with her. Her gentleness and wisdom always made him sober and more square when Wu Yu was impetuous. Occasionally, Wu Hao and Ye Qianing would guide Wu Yu, which was very helpful to Wu Yu. Wu Yu was thinking, in addition to hunting, what other skills can make money, so that he can quickly make up for the missing immortal essence and Buddha essence. Now, apart from Wu Hao's feast, it seems that there is nothing else that can bring Wu Yu powerful strength, and Wu Hao's cooking depends on his mood, and it is unlikely that he will cook for Wu Yu every day. One day, Luo Ben came back from Qianlong Peak. I won't go to Qianlong Peak tomorrow, but my stepmother has told me to go with her to the 1UN Immortal Dragon battlefield. She hugged Wu Yu, who was thinking about Xian Dao, from behind, and pressed her soft body against Wu Yu. What are you going to do? Wu Yu asked casually. Wu Hao and Ye Qianing were very patient in training her, so Wu Yu didn't have to worry about her growth. It is said that within the immortal realm, all the immortal dragons below 1 UN will be assessed and battled to determine the top 3, with many rewards and the like. It is said that there are other rewards. Luo Ben said a little casually, she was not very interested. You don't have to participate. Luo Ben said, of course not, I'm still a baby here. Wu Yu turned around, grabbed her, and laughed, I don't believe it, how can a baby be so big? Luo Ben's face flushed, and she could only break free, saying, there are many people and noise there, so you just stay here and wait for me to come back. No problem. Anyway, it has nothing to do with Wu Yu. If he went, it would attract attention, and then the top masters might talk about this. Tomorrow, my uncle Wu Jun will also be back, and he will probably show up, Luo Ben said.